The most refined observers among us, those who see through every pretense, who perceive the hidden machinery behind social performances, who anticipate outcomes before events unfold, are not the most powerful but the most paralyzed. Here lies a paradox that conventional wisdom entirely misses. Your capacity for profound sight, which should elevate you above the herd, has become the instrument of your impotence. I have studied you closely, you solitary seers. While others act from unreflective instinct, you hesitate, calculating, predicting, seeing 10 moves ahead, and thereby making none at all. You congratulate yourself on perceiving what the blind masses cannot, yet you sit alone in your rooms as life passes by, watching the comedy from a distance you can no longer bridge. The very clarity you prize has exiled you from the participation you secretly crave. This is not the familiar complaint of the sensitive soul seeking comfort. I offer no consolation. What I reveal instead is, this, your excessive perspicacity, is not a wound requiring healing, but a tool requiring mastery. You need not see less. You must learn to wield what you see. Between your current paralysis and the power you sense is possible lies a specific transformation, one I have mapped through my own suffering and emergence. The question is whether you possess the courage to undergo it. You believe your penetrating sight elevates you above the herd. Let me destroy this illusion. Your clarity is a cage, not a crown. I observed a brilliant philologist in Basel who could analyze any text with devastating accuracy. Yet when called before faculty to present findings, he stood mute. His vision of how words might be received, of 1,000 ways he could fail, paralyzed him utterly. He saw too much to act. You have developed the philosopher's eye while retaining the philosopher's impotence. While the herd acts from instinct, you hesitate, calculating, predicting, seeing through every social mask. You have become spectator of your own life, watching yourself live rather than living. This is the spectator's sickness. You are the critic who has seen so many plays he can no longer surrender to drama. The herd's blindness enables their joy. Your sight enables only withdrawal. Knowledge without power to act is imprisonment. Today, notice precisely when your seeing becomes paralysis. Before encounters, as you imagine their unfolding. During them, as you calculate responses. Afterward, as you dissect what occurred. Name this moment. Recognition breaks its tyranny. Your paralysis manifests in 3 patterns. First, preemptive exhaustion. You live events in imagination before they occur, stealing vitality from future experience. Second, the tyranny of alternatives, where the healthy animal sees one path, you perceive 10, each splitting until choice becomes impossible. Third, anticipatory disappointment. You predict failure so vividly you abandon projects before beginning. Consider the Leipzig architect who saw so many possibilities that he produced endless sketches, but never final plans. Meanwhile, a less talented architect nearby completed 3 houses. Perfect vision without decision produces nothing. Tomorrow, when facing a decision, notice how many alternatives your consciousness generates. Choose the first option that does not violate your essential values and commit immediately before your mind multiplies objections. Set a timer for 20 minutes and take 1 step toward an action you have been avoiding. You are training yourself to act while conscious. Your excessive seeing is not a gift bestowed, but a weapon forged in response to pain. Having tender nerves, you learn to see everything in advance, to avoid shocks that robust organisms absorb without damage. Your clarity developed as protection. At Schultforter, I knew a boy whose nervous disorder made sudden noises painful. He developed uncanny ability to predict when bells would ring. His defensive awareness served him there. But in the unpredictable world beyond, this sensitivity made all engagement torture. Your armor has become your prison. Defensive sight scans for threats. What you require is offensive sight seeking opportunities. Tonight ask, when did I first learn to see this way? What pain taught me to predict, analyze, anticipate? Understanding the defensive origin transforms it from mysterious curse to comprehensible response. something you do rather than something you are. Tomorrow, in one situation where you typically scan for dangers, deliberately practice scanning for possibilities instead. Before you lies a fork. Most who see too much drift unknowingly toward decline. I knew a Basel professor who could diagnose every flaw in every system, every weakness in every argument. Yet in 20 years he published nothing original, for he saw too clearly his own limitations. He aged into bitterness, journals filled with brilliant observations about a life never lived. This is the declining type, ever more refined in perception, ever more impotent in action. Each year he sees more clearly and acts less decisively. Beneath his contempt for the herd's blindness lies secret envy of their unreflective joy. This envy poisons everything. His writings catalog why things cannot be done, why others are foolish, why engagement is futile. He creates nothing, having become pure critic. He trades vitality for being right about why life disappoints. Examine your journals. Do they record what is wrong, or do they contain experiments attempted, risks accepted? The declining type writes exclusively in the negative voice. If this describes you, begin now writing one action you will take despite seeing how it might fail. The ascending type possesses identical vision, but has learned to metabolize what he sees rather than being poisoned by it. During mountain walks in Sils Maria, I observed an alpinist who calculated every danger, yet climbed anyway, using vision to navigate rather than justify remaining in the valley. This is your model. The ascending type achieves conscious blindness, seeing the illusion clearly, acknowledging it, then choosing to live by it anyway through will. Not self-deception, but conscious commitment despite knowledge. He converts observations into energy for creation. He treats observations as hypotheses to test rather than final truths to collect. He enters social situations as experimenter, deliberately disrupting predicted patterns. When he sees all values are constructed, he asks, "What values shall I forge?" Tonight, attend a gathering you would normally avoid. Predict how it will unfold. Then deliberately introduce one element contradicting your prediction. Notice how often your predictions were wrong. This trains you to use sight for creation rather than withdrawal. Between declining and ascending sight lies a specific instant recurring daily when you must decide whether to withdraw into observation or commit to participation. I recall the evening before writing Zarathustra. I saw clearly all ways it would be misunderstood. In that moment, I could retreat to journals or commit to creation. I chose creation. This choice, repeated daily, produced the work. The choice moment feels like hesitation before action. Between seeing and acting lies a gap where freedom exists. Most fill this gap multiplying alternatives. Instead, decide consciously. Will I act despite what I see? One choice changes little. 1,000 choices, made consistently, determine your trajectory. Your body knows which path you are choosing. Shallow breath, tense shoulders signal withdrawal. Expansion, possibility, opening accompany engagement. Today, notice 5 choice moments. Simply observe when they occur, what triggered them, how you chose. For 3 days record, I saw X, I felt Y, I chose Z. On the 4th day, review. Are you consistently choosing withdrawal or engagement? You believe you see everything. This belief is your first prison bar. Your sight, however keen, is a perspective shaped by your wounds. You see deeply into certain dimensions because pain sensitized you there, but miss entirely other dimensions that even the herd perceives. In Leipzig, I encountered a theologian who could deconstruct any religious text, yet was blind to genuine consolation. These texts provided suffering people a dimension he could not perceive because he never needed such consolation. His sight was profound but partial. Once you accept your sight as partial, you become free to develop new ways of seeing. Tomorrow, in one interaction where you typically see through everything to hidden motives, Deliberately practice seeing from another perspective, perhaps someone more naive, more optimistic. Write about one recent situation from three viewpoints: your natural sight, an optimistic person's view, a practical person's view. Notice how each reveals and conceals different aspects. This breaks your pride in possessing. Superior sight, painful but necessary. The declining type treats observations as final truth. The ascending type treats them as hypotheses to be tested. Galileo climbed the tower and dropped different weights, actively testing what passive observation suggested. His experiment revealed what observation alone could not. Reframe every observation as hypothesis. Instead of social gatherings are exhausting, ask, under what conditions might a gathering be energizing? The question mark transforms everything. This week, run 3 experiments. In a situation you typically avoid, go and introduce one unexpected element. In a situation you predicted boring, actively try to make it interesting. Approach someone you dismissed as uninteresting and engage them as if they might surprise you. For 7 days, create 2 columns, predicted and actual. Write your prediction before entering significant situations, then record what occurred. You will discover your predictions are far less accurate than you believe. Life requires illusions. The herd believes unconsciously and thrives. You see through them and suffer. But there is a third way, conscious creation of illusions worth believing in. I knew a Basel couple. The husband understood romantic love was biological attraction rationalized. Yet each evening he brought flowers, spoke of eternal devotion. When I asked how he maintained this, he replied, "The life I create through acting as if love were eternal is superior to the life I would have by acting according to what I know. This is the art. Seeing the illusion, acknowledging it, then committing anyway through will. Not self-deception, but deliberate construction of meanings, compelling enough to justify themselves by effects. Not all truths serve life equally. When truth prevents action, when accuracy produces paralysis, selective not knowing becomes wisdom. Choose one value you will treat as absolute while knowing it is your creation. For 30 days, act from this fiction with complete commitment. At month's end, evaluate. Did this illusion increase your power, joy, creative output? Last winter in Turin, I observed 2 guests at a cafe gathering. One stood in the corner, analyzing everyone with contempt mixed with longing. After 20 minutes, he departed. The other engaged various people, sometimes genuinely, sometimes with ironic playfulness, aware of all pretense, yet participating anyway. The declining type exhausts himself before arrival, already living through the gathering's tedious unfolding in imagination. The ascending type sets one experimental intention, transforming observation into active inquiry. During the event, when the declining type notices pretense, he retreats mentally. The ascending type notes it, then asks, "What can I introduce that disrupts this pattern?" Afterward, the declining type fills journals with evidence of human stupidity. The ascending type records specific experiments run, data gathered, treating the evening as laboratory rather than prison. Before your next social obligation, write one experimental question you will investigate. The experimental frame transforms ordeal into inquiry. Attend 2 similar gatherings this week. At the first, be the declining type. At the second, be the ascending type. Compare your energy afterward. The declining type sits paralyzed by knowledge that whatever he creates will be imperfect. His papers filled with fragments that never cohere, because completion requires accepting imperfection. I labored years over scholarly articles that satisfied my critical faculty but contained no life. Then came Zarathustra, written in 10-day bursts, where I silenced my inner critic, finished sections before excessive seeing could strangle them. The result was imperfect, strange, certain to be misunderstood. It was also alive, set rigid time limits for creation. Say, I will write this section in 2 hours. Then I am done. When time expires, the piece is finished, regardless of flaws. Separate creation time from critical evaluation. Tuesday and Thursday, create with abandon. Wednesday and Friday, evaluate mercilessly. Never mix the two. Accept that releasing work at 80% of your vision is infinitely superior to perfecting work to 100%, but never releasing it. Choose one project you have been perfecting endlessly. Set a deadline 1 week by which it will be finished and released. The declining type sees too clearly what love is: temporary chemical alignment, evolutionary programming. Armed with this knowledge, he protects himself from commitment, engaging only in brief affairs. The ascending type sees equally clearly, but asks, can I create a love powerful enough to justify itself despite its artificial nature? He loves with tragic knowledge, aware of love's biological basis, yet loving completely. The Lou Salome affair taught me both paths. When my proposals were rejected, I withdrew into bitter philosophy. But later I understood. My error was allowing sight to prevent the attempt. Better to love and fail with full consciousness than to abstain with superior understanding. Commit fully to relationship while maintaining awareness of its impermanence in reserve, acknowledged in solitude, bracketed during connection. Select deliberately which romantic illusions you will embrace. Then act from these fictions with total commitment during interaction, returning to clear sight only during reflection. If currently in relationship, have one conversation expressing commitment explicitly despite acknowledging uncertain future. If not in relationship, notice when excessive seeing prevents you from attempting connection. Next time, attempt anyway with eyes open. You recognize that all meanings are human creations, that no cosmic order guarantees their validity, and rather than despairing, you claim freedom to forge values consciously. In Basel, I wore the professorial role while cultivating in solitude the values that would flower in my books. I was beyond good and evil, free to play any role while identifying ultimately with none. Notice that you already create values daily, but unconsciously. You prefer solitude over society, depth over surface. These preferences are your created values. The free spirit makes this process conscious. Develop a repertoire of roles you can inhabit genuinely while remaining inwardly free. The skilled professional, the gracious guest, the supportive friend, wear each mask fully during performance. Remove it during solitude. For each value you hold, ask, if I were condemned to repeat this life eternally, with this value determining my actions, would I will it so? Write down 5 values you currently live by. For each, ask, did I choose this or inherit it? Does it increase my power or constrain it? Then consciously recommit to values serving your flourishing. There exists a happiness available only to those who have passed through dark knowledge and emerged transformed. I call it tragic joy, the capacity to affirm existence, not despite its suffering, but because of the totality of what it is. Walking near Silva Plana in summer 1881, the thought came, what if this life, with all my pain, migraines, isolation, what if I were condemned to live it again eternally? My first reaction was horror. Then came the question, could I learn to will it? Each evening before sleep, review your day and ask, could I will this day to recur eternally? Not as you wish it had been, but as it was, including disappointments, moments where excessive seeing paralyzed you. Recognize that your excessive seeing, which has caused pain, has also created your depth, your insight. The suffering and the gift are inseparable. Love your fate, including its cruelty. Not resignation, but active embrace. Say this isolation, this struggle, this was necessary for my becoming. I choose it. I will it. Each morning upon waking, deliberately say, whatever comes today, I will it. If this day must recur eternally, so be it. This trains your will. Initially, it feels false. Eventually, it becomes your natural stance toward existence. Your struggle with excessive seeing is not merely personal affliction, but preview of humanity's future crises. What you experience, acutely paralysis from seeing through comforting illusions, is what culture is beginning to experience collectively as the old gods die. I write these words in Turin, isolated, misunderstood, yet I know what I have learned through suffering will be needed by those who come after. I am planting seeds for a harvest I will not see. Recognize that your excessive seeing reveals what is happening to European consciousness as a whole, as science advances, as traditional authority crumbles. More people will experience consciousness without inherited meaning, sight without consoling illusions. You are not fleeing humanity's future, but entering it prematurely. Your task is to forge methods others can follow. Every technique you develop becomes a tool for those who will need it. The most powerful argument for possibility of life after the death of God is existential, your own lived example. By creating meaning consciously, by loving despite knowledge, by acting with power despite sight, you demonstrate what is possible. You belong nowhere and therefore everywhere. You fit no category and therefore can move between all categories. This is not weakness but supreme flexibility. Write your answer to this. If everything I learned through suffering with excessive seeing could benefit one other person, what would I most want them to know? Your answer reveals your teaching, your contribution to what comes next. Your suffering is no longer merely yours, but has meaning in service of what comes next. You are the free spirit, the one who demonstrates that life can be lived powerfully even after the death of all inherited certainties. Your existence itself is your teaching. Go, create, live, become.